Series Evil Lynx 2, The Haunted Investigation, Episode 9, Battle with the Cat. Demoness, The Mystery of the Jars, and Escaping the Death Cave. Ash took a step back, tightly holding Alyssa's hand. Both of them sensed that something far more terrifying was about to happen. The air grew thick, suffocating. Suddenly, a cold wind swept through, carrying eerie whispers in its wake. The dark clouds overhead began to disperse, revealing a pale moon rising and casting its light directly onto the statue of the cat deity. The woman in the red dress suddenly froze, her eyes gleaming with madness and excitement. The moonlight illuminated her face, which began to distort. Dark black fur gradually sprouted from her skin, growing densely across her body. Her eyes changed color, becoming a deep, glowing green that reflected the moon's light. She let out a scream of pain and exhilaration, her voice resembling a cat's screech from the depths of hell. Sharp fangs extended from her mouth, gleaming under the moonlight. The cat-faced woman, now fully revealed as a hybrid creature of human and beast, turned, baring her teeth with a menacing gaze at Alyssa and Ash. "You will never escape me," she hissed, her voice now hoarse and beastly. "You will become cursed souls just like her." Alyssa stumbled back a few steps, her eyes wide with horror at the sight before her. Ash quickly drew his gun, but his hands shook as he faced something beyond anything he had ever imagined in his career as a police officer. Meanwhile, Nick, still under the control of the cat-faced woman, heard Nancy's blood-curdling scream echo throughout the cave, sudden and agonizing, as if it were her final cry for help. He saw her lifeless eyes wide open, her body motionless, as her life force drained away. This sight jolted Nick from the cat-faced woman's control. His eyes slowly returned to normal, his awareness returning as he realized the horror before him. "No, Nancy!" Nick screamed, his voice breaking with overwhelming grief. Guilt consumed him as he looked at the girl he loved, now dead, partly by his own hand. Madness surged within him. With nothing left to lose, Nick charged at the cat-faced woman like a desperate man, completely out of control. The cat-faced woman, now a monstrous hybrid, let out a cold, eerie laugh. But the smile quickly vanished when Nick attacked her with the strength born of pain and rage. "You'll pay for this," Nick shouted, gripping the knife he had used on Nancy, now turning it on the one who had manipulated him. Seeing Nick fighting the woman, Ash and Alyssa no longer hesitated. Ash rushed to Nick's side, pulling out his pistol and firing at the grotesque creature. The gunshots rang out, the bullets speeding toward the target, but the cat-faced woman dodged effortlessly, as swift as a predator. Alyssa didn't stand by either. She grabbed a large stick and charged, aiming for the cat-faced woman's head. The sound of the impact echoed as the stick struck her back, causing her to stagger momentarily. However, the attack wasn't enough to bring the monstrous creature down. She swiftly turned, her glowing green eyes flashing with fury. With a powerful swipe, the cat-faced woman grabbed both Ash and Alyssa, flinging them aside like rag dolls. They flew through the air, crashing to the ground, helplessly watching as Nick faced the demonic creature alone. Nick, now by himself, continued to charge forward like a man with nothing left to lose. He stabbed the woman repeatedly, but the blade only skimmed her skin, not deep enough to cause any serious harm. The cat-faced woman let out a low growl, her anger rising. "You don't know your limits, you fool," she hissed. With a swift, brutal movement, she slashed through Nick with her razor-sharp claws. The cat-faced woman's claws pierced through Nick's body, causing him to stop in his tracks, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He looked down at his chest, where dark red blood flowed freely. His eyes widened in disbelief at what had happened, but his body began to weaken, collapsing onto the cold ground. "Nick!" Ash and Alyssa screamed in unison, their voices filled with panic. The horrifying sight before them left them paralyzed. With grief and rage boiling inside, Ash roared and charged at the cat-faced woman. Alyssa, without hesitation, gripped the stick tightly and followed. Ash swung his fists, trying to strike at the cat-faced woman's weak spots. Alyssa, using all her strength, swung the stick at the creature, but she was too fast. With a graceful yet sinister motion, the cat-faced woman evaded their attacks, a mocking smile on her lips. "It's useless," the cat-faced woman snarled, her glowing green eyes radiating arrogance and defiance. Her eerie laughter echoed throughout the space, as if everything was under her control. Yet Ash and Alyssa refused to back down. They knew they were facing a formidable foe, but they couldn't surrender while even the faintest hope remained. In the most agonizing moment of his life, Nick fought to keep his will from succumbing to the pain. His eyes, though fading, remained fixed on Nancy, as if trying to convey an unspoken apology. He knew he had failed to save her, but he couldn't allow everything to end in despair. His sister, Alyssa, was still in danger, and he couldn't let that happen. With ragged breaths and dwindling strength, Nick summoned every ounce of power left in him. His trembling arm slowly reached out, each movement so but filled with determination. He recalled the cat-shaped urns he had seen while under the cat-faced woman's control, realizing they held significant importance to her power. Despite the unbearable pain, Nick inched closer to the altar where the urns were displayed. He knew that if there was any chance to turn the tide, it lay within those urns. Nick's eyes never lost their resolve, even as his body weakened. He had to act, for Alyssa, for everyone he loved. With a slight push, the first urn fell to the ground and shattered. The sound of the shattering echoed through the cave, followed immediately by a piercing scream from the cat-faced woman. She clutched her chest, howling in agony, her face wild and out of control. The once powerful, cold figure now appeared weakened, faltering. Nick collapsed as the urn broke, his hands falling limp, devoid of strength. His life slowly slipped away, but he had done the one thing he could in his final moments. "Nick!" Alyssa screamed in horror, her heart shattering. She watched as her brother fell before her, her soul torn apart. She wanted to rush to him, to hold him, but her body seemed paralyzed, consumed by the flood of emotions. However, before Alyssa could reach him, a violent tremor suddenly engulfed the cave. The surrounding rock walls shook violently, as if a massive earthquake was underway. Large stones began to fall from the ceiling, crashing down with thunderous booms, signaling an imminent collapse. Ash's eyes flashed with urgency as he quickly grabbed Alyssa, his voice filled with concern. "Alyssa, we have to get out of here immediately. The cave is about to collapse." But Alyssa didn't hear, or didn't want to hear. She struggled against Ash's grip, trying to run toward Nick, but he held her firmly, resolutely pulling her away from the looming disaster. "No, I can't leave him," Alyssa screamed, tears streaming down her face. "He saved us," Ash said, his voice heavy as he dragged her toward the exit. "Don't let his sacrifice be in vain." Together they ran through the falling rocks, leaving behind Nick and Nancy's lifeless bodies and the unbearable pain. Above them, the moon continued to shine on the statue of the cat deity, while the cat-faced woman roared in fury, her scream echoing through the air like a wild beast stripped of its power.